So, I saw a video on TikTok. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Dollar Store Crafts. So when I saw this video on TikTok, I was like, that looks super cool. It also looks super easy. I also have all the materials. So I figured it would be a great idea to try and do this art. And for some reason, I also thought it would actually be good. For some reason, I thought that I could just whip up a masterpiece as if it was nothing. I was very excited to do this, and I had all the confidence in the world. So I collected all my materials, but I did learn my lesson from the last time I melted down crayons, and I did not use the dollar store crayons. For some reason, the dollar store crayons don't fucking melt, so I used just the regular crayons that I had. I used some regular printer paper that I had, and I used a hot glue gun from the dollar store. Is this the reason this project failed? Maybe. I don't know if I'll ever know. Whatever the case may be, I decided I was going to actually make art, so I did some things and got some things set up to try and make like an actual art piece. Do you also remember that coloring book that I got from the dollar store to do a project a while ago? I took a page out of there and I figured I can do this one on some regular printer paper. I made some pretty intricate designs that I could leave some negative space that I could fill in with fancy colors. On regular lined paper, I did a fancy design and I was thinking maybe I could alternate which line I filled in and made it look super interesting. So, in short, I was prepared for this to be an interesting experience. I went ahead and skinned all my crayons like you do. And the very first thing that I did for practice was I took an old piece of artwork, my Loki stained glass piece from when I was doing the mosaics, and I was like, what I can do for practice is I can melt a black crayon and put it in between all the lines, because in stained glass you have all the colorful pieces and in between all of them you have the black. So I was like, I can fill in all the spaces in between the colors with black. It'll give me practice, it'll look nice, and it'll give it a nice 3D texture. It's bad. Actually, something pretty surprising is, this is the best I did. You can tell that, definitely, especially in the middle here, when I was first starting out, it is not good, but there's so much more control at other parts. I got to the point where I had enough control where I could at least make some kind of shape and get in between the lines. So I was like, you know what, I had a good practice, time to actually make some art. But even as I was doing that piece, I was noticing that it was not a steady stream like it was in the TikTok video, but instead it was splattering everywhere. Now, if you remember when I did that disaster, crayons like to splatter everywhere. Despite this very obvious sign that this was not going to work, I continued on. I had my lovely picture of a fish that I went ahead and colored in the body of. In the TikTok video, her crayons were kind of mounded up and piled up a little bit instead of just being flat on the page. For some reason, I was still convinced that mine would turn out a lot like hers. So I colored in the middle of my fish and I left the fins uncolored because what I wanted to do was make the fins more 3D, more flowy, and more of a mix of the melted crayons. It was going to be very cool. It was cool in my head. This is what happened. This actually looks better on camera than it does in real life. It is very bad. It was pretty much impossible to control anything about the crayon. Like you can see here, I was trying to stay inside the very corners of the fin. And also, this color was supposed to be a very dark red, and instead it mixed with the black and just made more black. I wanted it to fade from a darker red to a lighter red to an orange into the fish. So as you can see, we have another red here. But the thing about when I saw that red and I saw the marbled effect of the color before it, I was like, okay, well, forget the fish, because it wasn't looking good anyways. I'll move on to one of the lined papers that I drew on, because then I can have it fade from one color to the other, and that might look cooler. So I attempted to start working on one of the line art ones. And it was mostly circles, so since it just dropped blobs all over the place, I was like, oh, it's not bad, it's okay. Not good. The problem with this one is the same problem I'm having with everything else. I cannot control anything that happens. When the crayon lands where I want it to land, I think it looks nice, I like it, but I just, for the life of me, could not control where it went. So I gave up on my other line art drawing, but I still wanted to try and make something, and because of what happened with this guy, I was like, okay, just do a splatter paint piece. So I did a splatter paint piece. I fucking hate it. Also, it's hard as a rock and very curly. I use just like one of each color crayon to do that, and it's not good. When the crayons would mix while I was changing them, like those splatters looked cool, but the rest of them just looked very boring. As I was doing that one, of course I started out with the reds through the oranges because those come first in the rainbow. And as I was doing that, I was like, this looks like fall. It reminds me of fall, like the leaves. And I was like, well, why don't you just do that? Just draw some trees, leave the tops bare, and then use like reds and oranges and browns and just make like an abstract fall landscape. I want to die. Because I came up with this idea while the hot glue gun was still on, is dripping crayons everywhere. So I had to like rush through the tree trunks so they're just sticks, which is whatever. I just wanted to see if this idea would even work. I don't like it. I don't think it works. Honestly, this is just a complete fail, an all-around fail. I don't like it. I don't know what materials the girl in that TikTok video was using, but there was no real way for me to win this one, honestly. Also, I was trying so hard not to make a mess, and it still happened. Even as soon as I saw one splatter on the sky, I tried to scrape it off because I didn't want this to be the second mug I ruined with crayon splatter, but it is now, and I'm very sad. It does look kind of gnarly though. So, all around, I had a bad time. I'm very much not happy about how this turned out. I'm very sad. I've got crayon everywhere. I got crayon on my microphone, I got crayon on my mug, I got crayon on the bottom of my mattress, which is not good. So, don't listen to TikTok, I guess.